Hello everyone, this is Venom, and today we're going to talk about Helldivers 2. So, before I even get started talking about the main part, I'm going to say something that those of you with listening comprehension will understand and we're not going to have a problem with, okay? If you listen, what I'm going to say is not going to be controversial at all. For those of you who have not gone more than 6 hours without touching Twitter or Reddit for like the last 4 years, you might have an issue, but everybody else who has basic listening comprehension is not going to have an issue with what I say. Helldivers 2 is not that great of a game. Don't get me wrong, it is fun, I'm enjoying playing it, but every article and every video I see about this game coming out is like everyone talking about the game like it's some super innovative, groundbreaking game, and I think what it really is that Helldivers is not a symptom of or anything. I think they're capitalizing on the fact that AAA gaming is just in such a dog shit spot right now. Now again, I want to make it clear, not only do I like Helldivers 2, I play Helldivers 2. Now, I'm not somebody who's in-game, I'm not one of those level 50 people, I'm not in challenging or anything like that. However, whereas most games that you'd be playing for long term, I would say that you need to be that kind of level to really understand and give a good opinion on that. Helldivers 2, you don't really need to be. I say that because no matter what level you are, you're not going to be getting better stuff just by completing higher difficulty tiers. And by that, I mean, you're not going to be getting like weapon drops coming in. You actually buy your stuff off the battle pass or off the daily store, or you just, you unlock stuff at certain levels. That's all fine. I'm not going to be getting like stuff in Destiny 2 where I get adept weapons for finishing Grandmasters, okay? I'm not going to be unlocking new game modes by getting to level, doing stuff on difficulty level 9 or anything like that. Me being a super high level is not going to really change the fundamental gameplay or unlock a new gameplay. It's going to give me more weapons and more stuff to play around with, but the fundamental game itself is not going to change. So I can definitely give a perspective on this without being a super high level. Right now I think I'm about to hit level 11. That's where I'm at right now. And I say all this because with how limited this game is, and the game is limited, whether you want to admit to it or not, I can see exactly what the end game looks like. The game itself doesn't change, except your tactics do have to change because of how much damage you're going to be taking and how much more damage the enemies can take. All you're really changing is your tactics. You're not really changing the gameplay itself. That being said, does not mean the game is not fun. In fact, the game is extremely fun with friends. Not so much fun solo, but is extremely good with friends. Now, I say all that to qualify that for some reason, every single article I see come out is like, Helldivers 2 is this, or Helldivers 2 is that. Everyone's got a lot of praise for the game, which is fine. But I think a lot of it is kind of overblown. Kind of like how Power World was a bit overblown when it came out. Again, I could kind of see where the end game was going to be at. I still have a server for it. By the way, if you want to join the server, let me know. I got, the server still up and running. I still like playing Power World, but it was very easy to see, even though the game was actually innovative. Even though we saw a lot of stuff in there that was in other games kind of combined into one, so it was an innovative creature capture game. Everything else was still, you could still tell where the end game was going to be. Like, yeah, you can beat all these bosses, but once you do that, you kind of tell that's kind of the end of it. Same in Helldivers 2. You can still see all you're going to be doing once you get to high levels, level 50, is that you can now more effectively take on that harder stuff, but it's still not going to change the gameplay. Now, that doesn't mean that the gameplay for all this is bad. However, it does mean that I think gamers are so starved right now. I think the community is so starved for good games that something like Helldivers 2 is seen as something crazy innovative when really it's just a mid-tier game. Not saying that the developers haven't done something bad, by the way. In fact, I think they do have one innovative thing in their game, is that they're kind of playing RTS with us as a community, real-time strategy, in the planets we're fighting. So from what I understand, I think the developers are actually have some input as to how the fights are going. I think there's some speculation that we're purposely losing planets. Developers are making us lose planets on purpose so that they can introduce some additional gear that will kind of help us push and bring the fight out to the bugs and the automatons. I don't know how true that is. It's just a theory, but it's a game theory. Sorry, I couldn't help it. But that does not mean, again, that the game is bad by any means. Now, the community did have some issues. The community had some issues when the game first released. One, there's still some server crash issues. I think Helldivers did not expect as many people to play the game as are. I've definitely had some issues trying to play with some friends of mine. When we try to do the PC and PS5 crossover, there's a lot of times where people are dropping out, or one person joins, it kicks everybody. There's still some connection issues on that one. And as far as I know, there weren't too many bugs in the game, but we are still at the point where we're still waiting for a lot of stuff to come in the game. The game is still technically, actually, I don't think it's early access, but I do think we are getting more stuff added into the game. But there is still, that needs to be changed. I know there were some bugs that were being fixed. I know there were quite a few issues that were getting knocked out and are still being fixed with the game. Most of it is fine. Now, I don't know the armor issue has been fixed as of right now. That's one of the big ones, that the armor ratings did not matter. Even though it said there were different classes of armor, they all did exactly the same thing. They weren't adding any more, any less protection. So you'd basically choose whichever armor had the best stamina or the abilities you wanted and go off of that one. I don't know if they fixed that or not yet. The last I checked, they hadn't, but they may have. Now, where am I going with all this? Well, I want to bring up a couple articles here. It says right here, this one is from comicbookmovies.com. It says, Helldivers 2 takes the gaming community by storm as Steam numbers surpass Destiny 2 and Halo Infinite. Here's another one. This one says, this is from Clarity. It says, unlocking innovation, Helldivers 2 versus Halo franchise is getting compared a lot to Halo. I don't really know why. The combat is somewhat similar, but really you can compare it to any first or third person shooter. Halo's not even a third person shooter, so I really don't know why they're really comparing it to Halo. I'd say maybe Warframe, if anything, because they're both third person shooters, but for some reason Halo is the game that people are comparing it to. Not even as Destiny 2, which I thought they were comparing more to. Now, I bring up these two articles, they're just kind of random ones I found, but I bring them up because you're going to see a lot of articles like this and a lot of YouTube videos like this. There's a lot of shorts talking about how popular Helldivers 2 is, and it's not just that they're saying that it's popular, they're talking as though the game is some great innovation in gaming, and it really isn't. Again, it is a good game to play, and it is fun. I still play it. In fact, I'm going to play it with my friends again here, probably later on tonight when I'm done making my videos. However, I think we're seeing a bigger issue in that the AAA gaming industry has just hit that big of a slump, and honestly, it's become laughable. Now, at this point, you guys know I make Destiny 2 videos. There's a few other games that are released I'm going to talk about here later on, but Destiny 2, for example, has got a major issue right now on the horizon, and I don't think enough people are, well, I say not enough people are talking about it. I don't think the game industry as a whole is talking about it nearly as much in the light that it should be, or the way that it should be. Now, the people in the community are talking a lot about it, talking about the final shape, and I kind of gave a brief overview as to what the issue is for Destiny 2 right now. So, besides all the internal stuff, and besides Bungie firing employees, which the community does not like, Destiny 2, for all the toxicity people say is in it, it is a very close-knit community, and they don't like it when you treat the community or the developers bad at all. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't have its issues, but when Bungie went out and fired a ton of its staff, and the way that they did it, it caused a huge backlash in the community that I think Bungie still doesn't realize how bad this is going to end up hurting the bottom line. Now, the issue that we're having right now in Destiny 2, and this is one that is solely, I've never seen any other game have this issue right now, and this is completely on Bungie as far as what the problem is, and that is that Bungie has gotten rid of so much old content that it's basically impossible for new players to play the game, and the older players want the content back, and they're not going to stick around, and Bungie, they basically painted themselves into a corner. See, what happened was in Destiny, we had Destiny 1, obviously it's still around. Then we got Destiny 2. It started off with a campaign called the Red War. That was basically the name of that, not even DLC, that was the name of like the base campaign, okay? We would get, yearly expansions, and those would have their campaign, and then what would eventually happen is that Destiny started breaking down the years into seasons. And each season would also have story campaign tied to it. Here's the problem. A couple years ago, Bungie decided to sunset not just a bunch of weapons and armor because of, a power creep, but they also sunsetted a bunch of the actual content of the game as well, including the base game of Destiny 2. The Red War, stuff like Forsaken, all that is gone. And all that, it's not just that it was just like map stuff. That was actual story content. So as of right now, new players coming in have no idea what was going on in the beginning of the game. And keep in mind, and this is a game where you're supposed to be basically the chosen one. You are the Guardian. There are Guardians all around, but you are the Guardian. You are the super Guardian that they send out to take on and fight gods and the things that go bump in the night. Well, now new players are coming in with basically no experience, having no idea what's going on, don't know what's going on in the story, can't even figure out what they're supposed to be doing. And somehow they're supposed to be the super guardian, which doesn't even make sense from a story standpoint, but they also have no idea what's going on in the story. Imagine starting up Destiny 2 right now, right before Lightfall's, or not Lightfall, right before the Final Shape's about to come out, and everyone's freaking out talking about like, hey, the Final Shape's about to happen, the Witness is doing this, the Witness is doing that. Nobody who's coming in and out of the game has any idea what's going on. That is a unique situation I've never seen in any other video game. I'll compare it once again to a game I love playing all the time, Final Fantasy XIV. When a new expansion comes out, Square Enix does not go and sunset that old content. You still got all the old content there you can go back and play through. In fact, new players have to play through that content. Even if a new DLC, like there's a DLC coming out this summer. It's Dawnbreaker, or Dawnbreaker, I think. And I'm pretty sure it's Dawnbreaker. I gotta double check again. Regardless, that content coming out this summer, if you want to play that, you still gotta go back and play through all the base content. In fact, what's coming up is not even gonna make sense unless you go back and play that. Well, for some reason, Bungie decided to go ahead and sunset all their old stuff, so now people coming in have no idea what's going on. Now, here's the issue. We're coming to the end of Bungie's 10-year storytelling with the Light and Dark saga, okay? They basically had the Guardians, us, for like the last 10 years. I mean, they've got a pretty solid community. Now, I want you to understand that throughout the years, Bungie has basically kicked and fucked with the community the entire time. There have been controversy after controversy. There have been issues with the game over and over again. There was a couple years there where every single season, something was breaking. It was just pissing the community off more and more and more. More and more, we were having microtransactions shoved down our throat versus content actually being added into the game. PvP actually got so bad that they had to put together a strike team to come in and fix the damn game for PvP, or at least add stuff in there, okay? That's how bad Destiny 2's gotten. And that's just for one game, mind you. Now, let's take a look at a recent game that is not Destiny 2. Let's look at one that just recently released. Let's look at Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. This is a game that, as of right now, somehow, I don't know how it's got mostly positive reviews on Steam, which makes me kind of wonder about some things. But the last week I checked, it's got like less than 900 active players for this game. This is a game that was released by Warner Brothers. It's supposed to be a live service game with less than 1,000 players. This game has been universally panned by everyone by having bad writing and by having essentially fucking over the lore of the game, disrespecting the established characters. Now, I've seen a lot of people that have been kind of pushing back on it, saying, well, it's a game called Kill the Justice League. Obviously, you're supposed to be killing the Justice League. You fight as a Suicide Squad. Your task is to take out the Justice League. So, of course, you're going to be killing, like, the characters out there, like, Batman, Flash, and Green Lantern. These things make sense, okay? However, the way they handled it was piss poor at best, and it's almost like the writers had no idea how the DC universe actually worked. For example, I think King Shark was able to make the Green Power Ring work just by picking it up. That's not how the Green Power Ring works. I think they shot Batman in the face, and like in a very disrespectful way. Again, technically, yeah, you're killing the Justice League, but first off, this was Kevin Conroy's last voice thing. In fact, I think someone actually put in here, recipe Kevin, like he died recently. I mean, he's been the voice of Batman for forever, and for his last voice acting gig to essentially be a disrespectful thing where he gets shot in the face in a very unceremonious way by Harley Quinn, a character who's basically just been propped up by pop culture. She's never really been that great of a character. Was extremely disrespectful. I mean, Flash, I think, got shot or some shit. I mean, the stories coming out from Kill the Justice League have not been good. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I played it. I did not play it. I was not interested. I also haven't played the Arkham games either, so I know, go ahead and sue me. This is not something I ever got around to doing. But, I mean, every single bit of feedback that's come back from this game has been negative, and it's been because either the writing has been terrible, or it's been because some of the characters they just weren't handled very well. Now, I can understand some of the disrespect. You're the Suicide Squad, you're not going to give, say, Batman or Superman, you're going to kill them in the most brutal way possible, and not really care about what's going on. But there have been a lot of other stuff in the game. A lot of it has been attributed to certain factors like a bit of pandering. We're not going to really talk about it too much. I'm just going to say that the game is not doing well. You can attribute it to whatever you want to, but the game is essentially dead. Even Warner Brothers had to come out and say that the game is shitty. What is the next one I want to talk about? Let's talk Ubisoft. Let's talk Skull and Bones. Let's talk a game that was essentially called I'm sorry, this one is funny. Hold on. Let me get the exact quote on this. Sorry, I had to double back and make sure I actually got this correct quote here. I got a PC Gamer right now. Ubisoft released Skull and Bones. It was supposed to be a game that, it doesn't take place after Black Flag. It is a game that is separate from Black Flag, from Assassin's Creed Black Flag. It was an extremely popular game. People really loved the pirate ship aspect of it. So Ubisoft essentially made a game based around that. It took like 10 years to do, and they finally released it. And the CEO essentially came out and said that this is, the first quadruple A game. I want you to keep in mind that this is a game that's released like in the midst of things like Power World and Helldivers 2. This is a game that's been released in the midst of things like the issues going on with Bungie. This is a game that's released in the midst of gamers basically coming up and saying $70 is way too much of a price increase for games, especially games that are not giving us I mean, even half that's worth the value. I mean, we got games like Power Word that are coming out for $40 or $20. I think I got it for me and my wife for like $25. You know, that's for both copies of it is less than the price of a typical AAA game. And it cost us, you know, $25 each, $50. And then we're getting games like Skull and Bones that come out for $70 that feel like unfinished pieces of, or unfinished, I'm not going to say that, but basically unfinished and very unfun. And we got people like the Ubisoft CEO basically saying, oh, it's a quadruple A game and it's worth every penny of the $70. Bullshit. This is the reason that modern gaming is dying right now. This is why AAA studios are dying to all these different indie devs. Sorry, I got the hiccups right now, but I can't stop talking. Here we go. This is one from PC Gaming. It says Skull and Bones costs $70 or your local equivalent and is a hefty price tag for something that bears the trappings of a live service game, including an in-game store, battle pass, seasonal events, and premier currency. But Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot defend the cost in an investor's call today, saying the high price is warranted because it's a quadruple A game. Never in my fucking life have I heard someone call something a quadruple A game before. And from what I understand about the gameplay of this game, this thing is barely something that an indie dev studio would come out. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, some devs actually basically came out and said that, yeah, this game should have been like a $30-something game. This is not worth $70. This game is like bare bones and is shitty as hell. It's got all the stuff that a live service would have. Battle passes, which is a shitty concept that I wish would finally go away. It's got in-game store. Basically everything you would expect from a live service game. It's got premium currency. You can just buy stuff outright. Typically buying it for just as much at another game it costs too, by the way, which is another issue people have with what's going on with Bungie, but I'll talk about that in a bit. I might just talk about that in a whole video by itself and just kind of rag on what's going on with Destiny 2 there. But battle passes, in-game store, premium currency, a very expensive price point, and the game is empty. There's nothing to fucking do in it, and it's apparently not fun to play. That's the bullshit that devs have been pushing out to us. And by the way, Ubisoft are some of the same people that complain about games like Elden Ring when it came out, and people loved the game, even though it didn't do anything that these quote-unquote AAA developers would do. Now, don't get me wrong, the devs for Elden Ring are AAA devs. I mean, they put out some good-ass games, but they are an example of a AAA studio that still gives people what they want and innovates. This is an example of Ubisoft putting out the same bullshit over and over again, taking years to make something. They put something else that's just half-assed and then get mad when people don't want to buy it or get mad when it flops. Same with the Suicide Squad. Same with, let's talk about it too, Pokemon. Let's talk about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. A game that, again, I play. My wife recently just got Pokemon Scarlet because I've got Violet. And while I do enjoy playing Pokemon with my wife, in fact, that's one of the main things I wanted to do when I was a kid is get married, and two, get a woman who actually wanted to play Pokemon with me. The other two things were to get Pokemon on the big screen, which I've gotten to do before, get a Pokemon MMO, which hopefully will come out someday, and then win a Pokemon championship, worldwide, but there's only so much a man can do, only so much I can do. I got a wife that can play Pokemon, and I got Pokemon on the big screen, so 2 out of 4 ain't bad. But Pokemon is released in such a shitty-ass state that people were just dying when Power World came out. I mean, I got Pokemon Violet when it came out. And again, I've got everything done in Pokemon Violet right now, including the DLCs, except for about 5 Pokemon in my Blueberry decks. That is it. And honestly, if I sit down in the afternoon, I can get it. I think Hitmon Top is one that's just giving me a pain in the ass. I just haven't felt like going through and getting them, okay? I've done all the raids. I've done everything. Beat all the DLCs, got everything except for those last few Pokemon, and that's it. Right now, I think I was working on my living decks. That's how crazy it is for Pokemon Home. I've done everything for Pokemon. The game is a bad game. I'm sorry. For a mainline Pokemon game, it is very janky. I like that they try to innovate with the open world, but it is very laggy. It's very janky. The game feels empty. And I'm sorry, taking out mandatory battles has kind of killed the game for me a little bit. I like the open world portion of it, and I don't. There should still be mandatory battles. That's part of a Pokemon game. I don't like that they took it out because really, without those mandatory battles, there was really no reason for me to do it. Really, once you find where the chances are at and you grind them up, you can kind of do that and get past the rest of the game. I don't even know who most of the people are in the game. I've actually gone back to battle them because I skipped past most of them. Pokemon, the Pokemon company, they've got like the biggest franchise in the world. They're getting shit on now by AAA developers because that's how bad of a state AAA gaming is right now. And that's why games such as Helldivers 2 is getting the praise it's getting right now. It is a fun game. It is not an overly innovative game. Don't get me wrong. The gameplay is very basic and is not going to differ much from your first level to level 50, except for the tactics you're using and maybe some of the equipment. The basic gameplay stays the same. Now, again, not a bad thing, but this is just going to show just how bad of a state that AAA gaming is in right now. So, yeah, so that's what's going on with Helldivers 2 right now. Really, this is I'm thinking I'm just going to call this Helldivers 2 in the state of AAA gaming right now. I'm probably going to talk about Bungie in a later video, and I'm going to talk about most of these other things. I might just bring back the podcast. I think that's where I'm getting at, because when I start talking about one thing, I start comparing it to everything else, and I think I might just have to bring back the gaming podcast. So I might start doing that one again, talking about what's going on. Maybe a daily thing, it may not be. I've been talking about doing that for a while. I think that might be the best way that, one, I can practice talking without having to restart and re-record everything. And then two, just talk about a lot of stuff that's going out in the world right now with video games. I mean, that might be the best way I can do that versus having to put out videos every few days and edit them and take up too much time when I could be using that video time for other things I want to do versus having to choose between news and build videos or news. And I've got a series coming up for the Guardian games I want to get done, but I'm afraid I'm not going to have time to do that with everything else going on too. So I think the podcast is where we're going to take this. So, but that being said, like I said, Helldivers 2 is fun. It is not it is not the second coming of Jesus. People are making it out to be that. It's going to die off quick, just like Power World does. Doesn't mean that is a bad thing. I do think people are going to come back. One, when Power World comes out with some more, when they come out with some more stuff to do in game, people are going to flood back to it. Again, there's no problem switching between games. I don't know why people think there's an issue with that, or I don't think it's the gamers that push that shit. It's the companies that push it. It's the AAA companies that push that if you don't play this game or people aren't playing your game for 8 weeks straight or 2 years straight, there's a problem with the game. This is not a live service game. Power is not live service. It is a game where you go in, you play, you do everything there is to do, and then when you're done, you can come back and then do some stuff later when the DLC comes out or when an expansion comes out. You don't have to keep playing the same game forever. Final Fantasy XIV, Yoshi P is famous for saying, hey, if you're done playing the game, come back whenever you want to. Go play other games. There's tons of games to go play. Come back. We'll be here. We'll be here. We love our community. Go play other games. We're playing other games. If you're getting bored, go play their stuff. Come back during the DLCs. We prefer you do that versus staying here and being bored. I think the CEOs for Power did the same thing. They're like, hey, there's tons of games that are coming out that are fun. Go play other shit. We're not going to be putting up shit every week. But when we do put out stuff, we'll be here for you to come back to play. So I think that it's just weird because I always grew up playing a lot of different games. We never stuck to one game. We played a lot of different ones. It's been the gaming industry as a whole that's pushed that, hey, you got to be playing the same game every single game or every single day. It's that you got to get on, you got to log on, you got to get your daily rewards. You got to go when you got to do your daily missions. You got to make sure you don't miss it on your weekly stuff. You got to make sure you're doing your raids every single day or every single week. You got to make sure that you basically turn this game into a job, and that's what they want to do, is turn your game into a job versus an actual game. They want to turn the game into a job so that you actually pay them more money, not just for DLCs, but for your in-game store shit. You don't want to do that. So, yeah, bounce around. Helldivers 2 is not the end-all, be-all. It is not the second coming. It is a good game. It is not an amazing game. It is not a groundbreaking game, but it is a very fun, entertaining game. And again, if you got friends, I highly suggest going in and playing with it. There's small things that just make it fun. I mean, it's just kind of, just the screaming that they do in there, and everything's for democracy, and the fact that there's friendly fire. I got killed by a buddy of mine's son last night. It was funny as hell. In fact, I think one of the first nights me and him and my buddy and his son played, his son actually tossed down a minefield on top of us, so we were basically just standing there like, if any of us move, we're fucked. It was funny as shit. He called down an airstrike on us the other day. I mean, it's fun. It is good, crazy ass fun. Hop in and play if you're into that kind of thing. And then once you're done playing, go play a different game. But it is not like an innovative, this is not going to change the state of gaming. I've seen quite a few videos of saying this is going to change gaming forever. No, it is not. This is not going to change gaming forever. This might help other developers see, hey, just make a good, fun game, but this is not going to change shit. Now, that is as far as AAA gaming goes. For indie games, yes, I think more indie games are coming out now that are just going to be good fun for gamers, and they're just going to say, fuck what the AAAs are doing, we're going to do our own thing. And I think that's working out more than the AAA games are, clearly. With very few exceptions. Like I said, Elden Ring is one exception. Bungie's got a chance to make Destiny 2 turn into something good again. I highly doubt it, and again, I think I'm going to talk about that again here a little bit too. I think that might be a video I'll do right after this. I think it's really going to take a lot for Bungie to bring it around to that one. I'm not saying they can't, but I am saying I probably got a better chance of winning the lottery tomorrow than Bungie does of keeping us all around and not fucking up final shape, but we'll see. So yeah, that's going to do it for me today, guys. Again, Helldivers 2, good game, not game-changing, but it's still a fun one to play. Hop on, play with your friends. Again, I'll play it too. I'm not saying it is a bad game. For those of you that have never been off Reddit for the past 2 years or never been off Twitter, I swear to God, if you can't understand the basic words I'm saying here, I don't want to hear the crap in the comments saying I said it was a bad game. It is a good game, and it's just not going to change the gaming industry. That's all I'm saying. And I'm kind of tired of every time a game comes out that's halfway fun that everyone hops on a bandwagon and says, oh, this is going to change gaming forever. No, it's not. No, it is not. But that's going to do it for today, guys. Thank y'all for coming by, and I will see you on the next video.